Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Developer Hangout for July 18th, 2018. I'm Will Hungerford, developer at Privateer Press. That's Will Pagani, developer at Privateer Press. That's Oz, development manager at Privateer Press. You're like ST.
He tries to manage this.
Yeah, he tries to manage this.
I'm not.
Can't handle this.
He's the boss fight. Well, the first boss fight. There's a couple after you.
I'm the mini boss.
Yeah.
In the middle of the level.
Then you go up to
That
Schick.
then becomes a regular villain, like on level 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're joining us right now, if you've never seen us before, or you're watching us on YouTube later, first off, we stream 3 days a week, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on twitch.tv/privateerpress. Every Tuesday is the weekly Rumble. Happens at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's where we play the games that we make and sort of hang out. We have different people from different departments, like Dallas from painting, or you know what we haven't had? It's been a while since we had like Doug Seacat, like one of the writers, come on. But we have people come in and play War Machine Hordes, and recently we've been playing a lot of Monster Apocalypse. Wednesdays is what you're watching now. Developer Hangout, 10 a.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. That's where the three of us get on and talk about whatever's going on in development, typically the CID cycles. Thursday, also at 10 a.m. Pacific, is Get Your Paint On with Dallas Kemp, our studio director. That's where he's going to paint one of the newest models we've got out, show you new tips and tricks on your hobby, and generally just answer hobby and painting questions. So you can watch these live at those times. Also, you can catch us at youtube.com/privateerpressprime, which you might be watching this at now, and watch us after the fact. If you are watching us after the fact, since I mentioned we're streaming, we have this giant screen off to the side, so people are talking to us. By the way, those of you watching live, please talk to us as much as you like. We'll try and catch questions as we can. So sometimes we'll read a username, repeat their question, we'll try and talk about it. I think the intro is now all good. Oh, one last thing, everybody. Gaston Crossbones. I want to mention real fast before we get into the Retribution CID. Today until 5 p.m. Pacific tomorrow is your last window of opportunity to go to mini-crate.com and sign up to get the Gaston Crossbones mini crate model. So if you want your pirate-rific crossbones. Pyrific?
No, that sounds like he
like a
likes
dragon.
fires.
Yeah,
like a
pirate-tastic.
Pyro-Malfic?
Pyro, if you want Pyro Malfic full-size model, the size of a couch, we don't sell that. But if you want a Gaston Crossbones.
Buccanacious.
Oh.
I like
I'm
it.
so into that.
That is the model that Dallas will be painting tomorrow on the Get Your Paint On.
He's gonna paint a ghostly one.
He's going to do a ghostly Gaston Crossbone.
A spoopy pirate.
So mini-crate.com, go sign up and get it. Yep. So today, we're going to be talking about the Retribution CID cycle.
Absolutely.
We're going to break this down into 3 phases for everybody so you can know what to expect. First, we're going to talk about the changes that happened in week 2, sort of what's going on with them. We'll try and get to some questions as we can. We're going to talk about the dev chat regarding Discordia that just ended. And then we're going to have an extended conversation regarding Shio Battle Mages.
Correct.
Yep.
So let's just jump right into the changes.
This is week 2 of the Retribution CID. We started it last Wednesday, so it has been going for 1 whole week.
Yep.
And this is the second calendar week of it.
And it's ending on the
30th, I think?
So like basically we have another week and a half left, roughly, of the CID.
We usually end them the Monday after a couple of weekends in, so that we give people one last weekend to play some games and get
Get in their last little reports and stuff.
And honestly, it has to end there anyway because we're going to all be at Gen Con. So
Gen Con is coming up real fast.
yeah.
Speaking of Gen Con,
Hello, John.
you can get Brugrosh at Gen Con.
Yes, the new Monpok Brugrosh model, which we showed on the live stream.
Dallas has been painting it.
And it's been painted on various things.
So if you're as excited about Monpok as we are, which we're all insanely hyped for that game account, I'm super hyped about Martians personally, just because I like spaceships a whole bunch. But the Brugrosh with him on top of the building, drinking the brewery, looks super dope.
That's what spaceships do.
They didn't whoosh loud enough.
Why?
But anyway,
They're
whatever.
quiet.
Sure.
These are Martian spaceships, so it's more like a whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
CID,
What he said.
Retribution, week 2 changes. Let's jump in on what we changed in week 2 and a quick discussion on why.
Okay. So the top of this list is the Gorgon.
Yep.
Which is Retribution Shio Light.
Yep.
And we noticed it didn't have the best place in the faction, especially with the introduction of the new lights from Vire. The Gorgon was kind of sitting there all by itself, not really doing anything unique anymore. So we changed its gun to a spray.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of sprays in Retribution, especially like
Yeah.
on their jacks would have the ability to boost them. And so we were sitting there talking about its place and sort of looking at that things other factions had, things Retribution might want, what would be cool for them, and then honestly we had a long conversation about the Repenter and how just having a spray light brings a lot of value. It's a great little utility jack, and right now with the Gorgon, you look at things like you mentioned, like the Harpy and the Siren and some of these other really powerful lights. The Aspis, those things are 6 points and they're freaking amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like the Gorgon needs a little something, and so we're getting a little weird, right? We're like, let's try something a little different. Let's try and give this thing a spray. So the first thing we heard back from the community, especially a lot of competitive players, were Alara 1 with a bunch of Gorgons is going to be a problem. And we're really interested in seeing the battle reports regarding that and showing us, is that a problem, or is that just sort of the immediate like knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, it's too strong. Okay, well, show us it's too strong, or maybe it's not strong enough.
And maybe it's fine because the Lara 1 is, a little squishier than a regular Warcaster.
Yeah.
So if you do stack a whole bunch of Gorgons on that model and it dies, then you've lost that functionality. But test those kind of things for us. Because that's what we do CID for.
I mean, I think sprays are great, right? You can't shield guard them, you can't do that kind of stuff, and that was one of the complaints people were having. It was harder to get that -2 speed exactly where you wanted it because shield guards could stop it, anti-shooting tech could stop it, that kind of stuff. This spray can deal with a lot of those things, which is great. It did drop from range 10 to range 8, so it's only a spray 8, not a spray 10, which is lovely. But I think the spray being able to hit multiple things and that kind of stuff is going to make up for that 2 inches there.
Yeah. And we also bumped his points up by 1 point.
Correct, which is back to its original point cost,
yeah.
from what it was before the CID. I'm also going to talk about this guy when we get into Battle Mages as well, so I don't want to do too much right now.
So the next thing on here is the Hyperion.
Yep, so Hyperion doesn't have a lot of flashy rules, but what he does do is he punches at power 21 or 23 with an Arcanist, and then he has a really dope gun that is now range 12, which is great, and then he can get the 2 little side guns that are also range 12. So whereas we're not really looking to make Hyperion the super duper exciting model, we do feel that he was not quite performing for his 36 point cost, down to 34, should help him out a little bit.
Dawnguard Sentinels. So Dawnguard Sentinels, we dropped a point, and then everyone was like, whoa, Dawnguard Sentinels are amazing. Why would you drop those a point? They're like really, they're probably one of the best infantry in Retribution. Like, that's amazing. And like everyone was like a little too happy that they dropped a point. So we were like, wait a second. So we paid attention, and then a lot of people were just very honest with us, which is what we want. They were like, they need to go back up. And these were like Retribution players, like of all shapes, forms, like from new players to high-end competitive players were like, they should probably go back up. So you know what we did? We raised them a point.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple people in chat, at least one, Our Flame Shadow, is asking why Force Lock and why the increased points on the Gorgon.
Yeah.
I mean, sprays are incredibly powerful. We just talked about that and about how amazing they are. And when you look at a lot of other different spray models in the game, they're in that 9 to 10 point range. And that's for a reason, right? Like, it's because just having that SP in front of your range gives you so many things. You can only be shield guarded, you ignore cover, you ignore stealth. Like, it's huge.
And it's a magic spray.
Sure.
And like, boostable sprays
especially
are
boostable
another
sprays
tier above
are like
a regular
whole
spray.
Tier. So like, that's why we increased the points back up to 9, is because you are gaining so much from this spray, increasing the efficacy of this Warjack.
And compared to a Repenter, honestly, the Repenter has a great spray. We know it's powerful. And it's also a damage type fire, which setting things on fire is great sometimes, or sometimes something has immunity fire, where the Gorgon has a magic type spray, which, there's no immunity magic, and in fact, magic gets around a lot of, incorporeal or protection from shooting even Minoth Jacks. You never know when that's going to be useful. So if you look at the points of a Repenter compared to a Gorgon, you'll see why the point value went up.
Yes. Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of people are dismissing the Gorgon just out of hand and haven't actually played any games with it. So I would definitely suggest getting in there, and I'm not saying that you haven't played any games with Our Flame Shadow, but if you have, definitely report your games on the forums and tell us why you feel that it is not meeting its current goals. So, yeah.
So let's move on to...
House Shale Artificer?
No, the Mage Hunter Strike Force.
Mage Hunter Strike Force. Oh, I skipped one. This one's really spicy, and I like it a lot. The Mage Hunter Strike Force is picking up Combined Range Attack, which is one of those really just generally good abilities to have on ranged units because it lets you sort of tailor what you need into the things. And the Mage Hunter Strike Force is going to be a Rat 6 unit with Combined Range Attack, which is very, very rare. Usually, when we do give a unit Combined Range Attack like this that is Rat 6, it'll drop to Rat 5. This is for internal testing purposes. I don't think that's ever happened in CID or anything. But for example, Crucible Guard Infantry for a while were Rat 6. And then when we gave them Combined Range Attack, they had to go down to 5 because they just became too consistent.
Combined Range Attack is also usually a compensation for individual soldiers being not as good. Like they can combine their fire. They all have generally Rat 5, and then they can up it where they need to by teaming up.
Now, so this is a dev chat, and we like to be transparent with a lot of people. As the dev team, and there's more than just the 3 of us. We've got Jason in there as well. we don't always agree on everything. Like, we agree on a lot
Correct.
of things, but there are times where we have
Yeah.
these long discussions, and it comes down to like, one of us may disagree, and the other ones agree, and then like sort of a consensus is made, and we decide to put it out in CID. So, for example, I disagree with this change personally. I think CRA is too strong on the strike force, and I'm paying very close attention to the battle reports that come out of it. But that's why it goes into CID, is to see what people are able to do with it, and then take that data and then have a new discussion as the development team and go, okay, here's what they did, here's what we think, and then see if our opinions change, keep an open mind, and just look at the raw data. So I think this is a really interesting one. Pagani pointed out why it's so powerful, why it's so spicy, and I think in Retribution, with several of their casters and what they're capable of doing, that this unit is going to prove to be problematic. So you show us in CID what you can do with the strike force, and we'll be keeping a very close eye.
The Magister. No, the Artificer.
Artificer.
Yeah.
Not nearly as exciting. He's going up to magic ability 7. We kind of feel like this guy is a big deal in House Shale, so he should have a better magic ability than the normal little mages.
And the Magister and him are kind of the same quality level
Of rank-ish.
of mage.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just wanted to make him the same level.
So this I don't think is a big deal in terms of like a gameplay thing. Like, sure, magic ability 7's nice, right? But this is mostly a fictional or fluff justification for this change here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this guy honestly doesn't cast a whole lot of offensive spells anyway.
Yeah,
Like, he's got one,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is good.
he's got one
but
when
it's
he
not
needs it.
like it's not like the point of this model. So to me,
Yeah.
this is much more of a fictional and flavor change than anything else here.
But the Magister is next.
The Magister is spicy, and I love it. This was straight up a community suggestion. There were a lot of people that were asking for Magic Ability 7 on Battle Mages, which I felt was very unreasonable. Because, I mean, we're going to get into this. Because I have a lot to say about Battle Mages. But
Yeah.
I think this is a great way to get that Magic Ability 7 on them, to let that happen, which is what the players wanted. But it's not just you just have Magic Ability 7, right?
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
like that aspect of it.
And him losing Force Barrier has been a little bit of a point of contention, but honestly, in Forges of War, you've got the Artificers if you really want to give him Force Barrier, but you have probably 1,000,000 Shield Guards as well. So like, he stays in the back. You can walk up and whip snap him if you want to, but we see him as almost like he might be a second line, like behind the Battle Mages.
Yes,
We'll-
yeah.
When we talk about
Yeah.
Battle Mages, we'll talk about their frontline role. Who he's behind them, providing the veteran leader, and then after they engage, he's got a lot of powerful abilities. He can run up there and cast as well. But Force Barrier is definitely an aspect of what we want the Artificer to doing, and you have other options and you have other tools in your toolbox to protect solos as you need.
And also, notice that says Shadow Trooper.
Correct. So it doesn't
It's
affect
not
the
gonna-
Artificer.
It's not going to affect the Artificer.
Doesn't
It's not
affect
going
Ron,
to affect
doesn't affect
Warjacks,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. It's very much, he is leading the other Battle Mages and making them better.
So the Trident received several changes, and the Trident we got a lot of feedback on. A lot of people that had some very visceral and passionate reactions to immediately, and then got some more games in. There was a lot of like we did hear a lot of this thing's busted, it's broken, and then nobody could really show why in the battle reports. But we've been paying attention to what everybody's been doing, and we did make some changes. First off, the Matrix, the Psycho Matrix, got cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because originally it said you spent the tokens anytime you wanted, and then the telekinetic wave said when you finished your movement. So now that language is just clearer. And also the telekinetic wave, you can only do once a turn. It was
always intended to be that way.
It was-
I just want to point that out.
Yeah, we never meant for you to work 3. It was just a language boo-boo.
Yeah, it was a language mistake by Jason. And honestly, I'm not even sure that it ever worked that way, but we just said, go ahead and test it that way. And
Yeah.
it turns out, it was pretty crazy. So let's not go that direction.
Then, based on the feedback we did receive, we don't think that it was broken by any means, but there were a couple things that need to be changed. One, momentum on the gun wasn't really working how we actually, or sorry,
ram
on the ram prowl wasn't working how we wanted it to. So it's just flat out ram now.
Yeah.
And the reason it wasn't working how we wanted it to is because momentum specifically states that it uses the power of the weapon for the collateral damage, which was 4.
Yeah. When you're after rolling 9s to kill Choir on your collateral damage on a battle
it's
engine,
pretty strange.
Something's
Yeah,
weird.
it was weird.
So Ram doesn't slam anymore, but it does
weird.
still knock down and still pushes stuff around.
Yep.
But
then
it's,
also
it's certainly not as good as Momentum was. We could definitely talk about something like Smite is an option here. I don't particularly feel strongly one way or the other. I don't think the purpose of this thing is to be charging stuff and pushing
Yeah.
it around and moving it around a bunch. Or it would have more abilities that dealt with that kind of thing. I think it's really the knockdown that I'm looking for out of this. And I think Ram is a nice way to get that with just a little bit of extra movement.
The Thresher cannons went to range 10 was the last change, and the reason that occurred is we were looking at the battle reports about how far away with reposition and this thing's speed it could reasonably be from what it just shot. So basically you were ending at about 15 inches away from whatever your target was.
At least, yes.
At least, every
Yeah.
time you shot. So And that's very difficult to deal with the amount of power this thing was putting out. So we realized, given its speed, given reposition, given the range, we wanted to make it just be a little closer whenever it was opening up with these Thresher cannons.
Yes. Yeah. We do, however, like the power, the damage output, all that kind of stuff has been showing to be great in the CID games. So, whereas we did tone it down a little bit this week, I certainly wouldn't say that we're done here. Like this, to me, doesn't feel like we're 1,000% done and we can just move on. I would expect some more changes. Keep giving feedback on it. It's certainly something that we're still interested in a lot of feedback and testing on. Specifically, also with like which casters are doing well with it and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Steelhead Hunter 81 says, "Why not Smite?"
I mean, I think it's a good point.
Yeah, it's very possible.
I don't know. We're trying RAM right now. Maybe we end up at Smite.
Yep.
So.
And that's all the models we changed this week.
Lies. No.
That is all the models
That is true.
we changed this week.
Did you say
I
Liza
never
Minnelli?
lie.
Liza Minnelli's sister, Georgia Holt. It's a drag queen reference. Don't worry about it.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm really lost right now.
Yes.
Go ahead. Let's talk about
So now we're on the theme forces.
Yes. So we have Defenders of Ios. Not a whole lot happened here.
Little change.
Yep. Housefire Electromancers are picking up the reposition benefit in addition to Stormfall Archers and Solos. I didn't really see any great arguments to not do that kind of thing, and I think they're a unit that could really benefit from it, and it could just give them a little push into something that they might get a little more popular with players. Forges of War is a big one. We're going to talk about that. I actually want to talk about that one later when we're talking about the battle mages, and specifically the Discordia change.
Yeah, but we mentioned the Fane Knight Guardian. We can knock this out real fast.
And yes, the chat is mentioning Discordia. Discordia did not change in this update. We're going to get to Discordia.
Correct. We have not actually updated Discordia yet. That is why Discordia is currently the unchanged version in the rules PDF for this week. Our proposed changes are simply that they are proposed changes. None of that has happened yet.
Okay. So we'll come back to Forges of War. What you need to know, a small thing is that the Fane Knight Guardian got added to everything but Defenders, I believe, right?
Well, it was
he's already in
already
Defenders. Yeah, he was already in
So
Defenders.
it's now available in
to
all
be
of the
in
Forces.
all of them. And that just felt like thematically, they're a great support piece, and there's really no reason that they wouldn't be attaching to any of them. And it just added an extra level of utility, another tool in the toolbox for all these theme forces to help them feel a little bit more complete and give you more resources. So we hope that people get some good value out of having him.
Yes.
Legions of Dawn, though, got a pretty significant change to its fourth benefit, which is that Dawn Guard models get the +2 speed.
Yes.
During the first turn of the game.
So we talked about this one a lot.
Yeah,
we did.
We bounced a lot of ideas around about how to replace that benefit, and we ended up with this one.
And specifically, the reason that was replaced was so that Eris could not shoot into deployment zones.
Yeah.
Now, astute players have pointed out that she actually still can, kind of, which is this whole, like, if you deploy exactly across from their caster, it is a tangential, I am within 48 inches of the total game board with everything.
Yes.
We have stated many times that tangents are not actually within, which is not mathematically correct, blah, blah, blah. You can yell at me later if you want.
Mathgani.
But it specifically is not actually possible to execute on the board, so I'm not worried about it at all. Like, you can declare that you're doing it, but that's not how War Machine works. You still have to move the models, you still have to measure the ranges, and you will never be able to actually do it. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. And two, that's currently possible. So that hasn't been tearing up the tournament scene. No one's been doing it. I'm not worried about it at all. At all.
Now, what we are paying attention, this is another one I'm specifically paying attention to a lot, is what is the scenario pressure of giving all the Dawn Guard +2 speed on the first turn if they run? There are a lot more theme forces that have been put out that let you sort of just run your army past the center line or very close to on the first turn and provide a tremendous amount of scenario pressure in Steamroller to where your opponent is already on their back foot before the game even begins and may not be able to reasonably come back because of what you brought and how far it went. So that's what I'm interested in seeing, is seeing people bring double Sentinels, maybe a couple of the Tridents, and just turn one if they go first. Throw everything out there, depending on what their opponent's playing, obviously, not just getting murdered off the table.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, I'm all the way up here. What have you got, if anything? And seeing if that's becoming a problem with Dawn Guard and what they're doing.
Sure, yeah, and that's certainly what we're going to be doing here. There are a lot of people that think that this is a very aggressive change, and I think it is an aggressive change. But really, it's +2 inches over what it currently is, right?
It's specifically the type of models you're bringing, right? And that's it's 2 extra inches. But like we have other things like Shadows, for example, can get very far in Retribution. But I would say like Dawn Guard are just going to be a little bit more beefy and hard to remove off the table. And there's certain other things you can bring with them, like the new Trident, for example.
Sure.
That getting it that far up can be an interesting predicament, but we don't know that it's a problem.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So that's really what I want to see. And once again, there's been a rather large community reaction to this as being like, oh my God, this is insane. There's no way they can do this. Like, that's not true. Go play some games, try it out, see what's happening, give some stuff. So let us know what's going on with that, right? Because I feel like a lot of people, and we're going to go into this again with the battle mages.
Keep holding
a lot, yeah, I know. A lot of people are making assessments without actually playing these games, and I mean, just yesterday in playtest, right? We were playtesting something in Riot Quest, and I was like, "There's no way this works. This is horrible." And you were like, "Look, just try it," and it worked fine.
Yeah.
So cheers. Like I did it yesterday. You guys can all do it too, and then you can go try it.
Yeah,
and see if it actually works. And I was very wrong. So.
And also, one game doesn't prove a point positively or negatively.
Correct, yes.
Because I still feel that Riot Quest thing we were testing yesterday might still be a problem in some small edge case scenarios that might be important enough to matter. So we're gonna do some more variations of testing and that kind of stuff, and you should do that too. You shouldn't just be like, well, my opponent had a really good army that could have destroyed my guys at range, so I didn't run, so it's fine.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, I do think the counter here, right, is the Michael Chili winner's plan of run everything screaming at your opponent, which doesn't work because you just get shot in the face.
Well, the last change, Shadow's Retribution picked up the Fey Knight Guardian.
Yeah, which is kind of what we already talked about. The Fey Knight thematically fits in a lot of places, and he also makes those a little bit more well-rounded.
So let's talk about Discordia briefly.
Sure.
The Discordia dev chat just ended. We proposed changing brain damage to deafen. One of the reasons brain damage is an incredibly powerful spell, and with the changes to Raven having, being able to locomotion and then open fire, so you get 2 of those sprays a turn. And
Sure.
Discordia being added to.
Yeah, the baseline was we wanted to start putting as we go through these character warjacks in the theme forces that they fit, without taking their caster.
So Discordia,
which I also want to point out, does not mean that all character warjacks will go into themes.
Correct.
It does not mean that.
2, it does not mean that all themes will get character warjacks.
Yeah.
Those are 2 things that are absolutely
where
not
it
happening.
fits. We want to try and do it.
Yes. So Discordia going into forges. Right?
Everybody can't have brain damage.
Well, everybody can have brain damage, and then there's certain issues where it became a little bit problematic. But Deafen, thematically it fits because it's a sonic cannon. 2, it's just a really good ability. Like, it's a Mat Rat fixer. The not getting orders if you hit somebody, honestly, Discordia is probably going to kill most of the people she hits with it, but not always. When you hit a unit of champions with a Deafen spray, holy hell, that's powerful.
When you hit a Warcaster or Warlock unit with that.
Oh man, Butcher 3 is
it
the
really
saddest
messes
person.
with the Butcher 3 when you shoot one of his dogs. Or
you got to shoot him.
Oh, you got to shoot him.
But
it's the worst.
This is my greatest thing of all time.
I hate it.
Is the Mountain King slowly walking 1 inch towards him every turn, spraying him every turn, and then he has to back up because he can't charge the Mountain King?
Yeah.
Barnabas 2 cannot
not fun.
stand it.
Yes,
Yeah.
he gets wrecked too.
You're like,
But at least he can sack pawn, right?
Yeah.
if they take out, if they can get it on, it's just,
Yeah. And yeah, really the issue was that brain damage just like randomly blows out games, and no one has fun with that, or it's just a completely dead ability. And really that was our concern when we were talking about changing Discordia, because that's no fun for anyone.
Yeah.
Like, no one's like, man, I got him. I got this brain damage, now I'm going to win the game. Like, they're just like, haha, get wrecked. And I don't think that's really what we want to be promoting in the game.
Yeah.
The other part of the conversation is, there were 3 basic parts. Discordia going into Forges, Discordia having brain damage changed to Deafen, and then the bond with Ron was a major point of conversation with everyone. So there's been a lot of really great suggestions we saw from the community, and some crazy ones. We have not had, because the dev chat just ended.
Yeah.
So
Ended
we
about an
as
hour
the
ago.
team.
Yeah, we closed it this morning. When you guys got here, we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, so we as the team, we're going to get together. We're going to talk about the dev chat, and you should expect to see, if we're going to make any changes to Discordia, which at this point I think is very likely, you would probably see those changes in the next update when it hits. So we can't really say what they're going to be yet, because we have a lot of conversation that needs to happen between now and then.
Yep.
So I also do just want to talk about Discordia for a moment, because we saw a lot of people in the dev chat that was like, I don't actually think Discordia is that powerful. And I think that is not true. I think Discordia is probably one of the best jacks in the game. And that's one of the reasons why her bond is a little weaker than a lot of other bonds.
Yeah.
Not even weaker, right? Because like Def 14 against range is super great. Like, that's an amazing stat to have on a heavy. But it's like, it's not quite as spicy, let's say. Not quite as exciting as some of the other bonds that are out there. And I think we do have some options that came up in the dev talk, and I've had a couple of ideas just sort of kicking around from conglomerating other ideas that people have had. But I mean, just to go through it, right? Like Mat 7, amazing. Pound 16, 18 with an Arcanist, amazing. Chain Attack Smite, absolutely incredible. Love it on World Wardens, love it on Discordia. Fantastic Spray 10, very high POW, high rat at 6. Like, that's all fantastic. Then you get Kinetic Field, incredible unique ability on the Jack, certainly a defining characteristic.
Yeah.
Honestly, once this goes into Forges of War, going to be a defining portion of that theme force. Deafen, incredible, absolutely amazing. Brain damage, totally shuts down animi, totally shut down casters from casting spells. You had to stay 18 inches away from her, 16 inches away from her in all the different games and stuff. Like, this Jack is amazing. It does everything. It's solid in melee, it's not amazing. It's a great ranged fighter. It's durable as all get out. It's got a lot of hit points. It's got this force field that can regenerate. It does so much. So people that are saying, like, once again, not to call you out in chat, but our Flame Shadow says Bond needs work. I mean, the Bond could definitely be better if that's what you're saying. I'm not sure we are looking to make that Bond better because that Jack already does so much. So and it's 18 points. Like, that's not a cheap price tag, but that's not a super expensive price tag. That's not a 20, that's not a 22, that's not a 23, like some of the things like Imperatus or Behemoth are, right?
Yeah.
Like,
let's be real. The Bond, if it wasn't a character Jack,
if it just didn't have a Bond,
it just could not exist.
Yeah.
If it just didn't have a Bond, I'd be fine with it.
It's the same thing
Legitimately,
when
I
we
would.
give a caster a kind of weak feat because their spell list is so amazing, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like, those are all things that we push and pull to try and get to a median, not just everything to 11, because then you get things that obviously outshine other things.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, legitimately, I mean, if there just wasn't a Bond, I'd be fine with this Jack at 18 points.
So Dragon Pup has a really good question in Twitch chat. He says, even though the chat has closed, is it okay if he tests Discordia tomorrow under the proposed changes in the dev chat?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because we have a change coming up. Just know that, like, if the change comes up and you play with those changes and it matches what you did, that'll be a great battle report to post immediately. But if things are off, that battle report might not be super useful.
So even if it is
after.
off, I definitely want that battle report as the guy that kind of reads all the battle reports, right? Just make sure that you mark it that you were using the dev, the dev chat version, not the released.
Yeah.
There could just be stuff that was
changes.
off that could kind of be a little weird for the data, but it's not a waste of your time at all.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's Discordia.
Yeah. So
That's
Discordia,
Discordia.
I love Discordia.
So
I have such a cool painted Discordia too.
shall we?
Sure. Battle mages.
Battle mages. I'll let you go. Hold on.
I know you got it. So
He's rubbing his armpit on me. It's real weird.
I know.
never mind. Man, I went to a weird place. My brain just went like bling, ding, 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 ding. Nope, all that's inappropriate. So battle mages are something that has been very contentious since we spoiled the things about them way back when Schick played them in a Company of Iron game.
Yep.
And I think there are a lot of people out there that are talking about battle mages that are not really talking about them from a place of authority because either they haven't played them very much or they have never really dug down into it and figured out a great way to play them. And that's something that I really want to talk about right now. Let's just talk about Force Bolt first.
Sure.
Just Force Bolt.
Just Force Bolt.
So Force Bolt is a spell, range 10, magic ability 6. You can get to 7 with a Magister if you want it. You don't have to take that. 6 honestly is fine. Like, it's great. And it's a push-pull mechanic. So you can push models away D3 inches or you can pull them in D3 inches. Against skirmishing infantry, it's POW 10. It'll kill them. Great. We had specifically an example get brought up in CID how Halberdiers and Mechanothralls are a great counter to this unit, which I think is absolutely not a true statement. I think those mages, even at 7s to hit without their veteran leader, they walk up, they kill 3 or 4 steelheads. If the steelheads charge, they will kill maybe 1 or 2 of these guys, or they'll do some big CMAs to kill a couple, which is fine. And then, honestly, the battle mages will punch all of them to death, just immediately. They have 2 attacks each. It's amazing. Same thing for Mechanothralls, right? They'll kill 3 or 4 on the come in here, and then they'll either walk up and not make it to melee, or they'll charge, and then you get that set defense bonus, which we're not talking about right now. But they'll charge, get that set defense bonus, and the Mechanothralls are mat 5. Nothing's happening here at all. And then the battle mages will punch them all to death. So Force Bolt, 1, gives you that skirmishing unit clearing with POW 10. It's great. 2, it can push things out of shield wall. So a lot of these skirmishing units have shield wall. fine. You can pull them out of shield wall. You can
3,
get that-
occasionally
that
you just
defense
grab
down.
a random solo and just pull him across
Sure.
the table.
Yeah,
You know, like that occurs
3,
sometimes.
Yeah.
you can kill solos with these guys. Magic ability 6 or 7 is fine. It's not amazing. Don't shoot it at yours 2. You will die, but that's not the point. Does he even have whiplash still? I don't even know. Whatever. Who cares?
But if you got to pull him in charge range of a heavy or something
Sure,
like
sure.
that, you
And
want
then
across the board.
and then let's talk about the heavy game, right? Which is something that this Theme Force really loves to play. You can take all sorts of heavy warjacks in this. You can take your Griffins in this with Virus 2. You can take.
Oh, you take Discordia with anybody.
I mean, yes, right. So like,
Well,
if
in a couple
you're
days.
if you're worried about like Discordia walks up, sprays a unit leader on something like a Man of War guy, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get charged by this heavy. You just shove him back 3 or 5 inches.
Yep.
Like it's crazy. So let's talk about that for a moment and how that actually works out. If you have them in front of your warjacks, they're speed 6. They run the same as your warjacks. You can deploy them slightly ahead of them. So your jacks start about an inch back. They run. They're an inch or 2 ahead of your warjacks. Great. Fantastic place for them to be. If your opponent attempts to approach that, if they get within 16 inches, which is the walk force bolt range, you can pull in a heavy, and you just get to kill that heavy. Then you can take all their other heavies, and you can push them away. And that's amazing, because what that does is you just kill that heavy without having to trade anything. And this is what got Circle into a lot of problems in Mark II, right? Was like these I get to kill your heavy for free, and you get nothing.
Yeah.
So that's like a great thing right there. And currently they're FAU, which I doubt makes it, honestly.
Yeah.
But they're FAU, so you could take 4 units of these guys, and they're not particularly expensive. 4 units is what, 32 points? 32 points. And then you could still take 70 points of heavies and other warjacks. So you can walk up, you can pull in 1 heavy, you can push the rest of the heavies away against things like Slayer spam and that kind of stuff. Magic ability 7, plenty of room to get in there. You can pull in 2 Slayers, you can kill both Slayers, you can push the other 7 away, no problem. All that's great. Like, absolutely fantastic. I see Sabra over here, who is a Circle player.
Yeah, she's
saying there's no salt right now because Druids lost this ability to do this. They can no longer pull; they can only push.
No. We talked about Force Bolt, right?
Sure,
That's
yes.
just Force Bolt. We've said multiple times, or in the CID, that we expect them to be sort of the frontline Shail.
Yes.
Now,
correct.
part of that is they lost Force Barrier and they picked up Set Defense, and then
Yes.
Force Barrier went to the Artificer, who now gives it to a model/unit.
Yes.
So, talk a bit about how they are a frontline unit for what they do.
Sure.
right?
So we talked about how if you deploy them directly in front of your jacks, and maybe your jacks run 1 inch less, they're about 2 to 3 inches in front of your jacks. Or somewhere between 1 and 3, right?
Sure.
So depending on what your opponent's
Yeah.
melee range is, they might not even be able to get to your war jacks at all because these guys are standing in the way. Now, a lot of people have brought up, well, they just get shot to death. Well, sure. I mean, they're def 13, so like trenchers need 7s. Idrians, if they're praying them, I think you throw a happy party and you just leave the unit behind your army, and then Idrians don't get pray anymore. So I think that's a very irrelevant argument. Idrians need 7s, so like a 10-man unit of Idrians walks up and kills 5 of them.
This is assuming you have not.
This is with no force barrier, right?
Yep.
So a 5-man unit of Idrian, or 10-man unit of Idrians walks up. I guess it's 11, and if they bring the chieftain forward, that gives them prey. Like once again, happy party. You get to kill that guy, and then Idrians are very, very sad.
Hashtag happy party.
Yeah, right? Like, I think there are a lot of situations here where people are explaining to me what's going to happen with these things, and they're not really thinking it all the way through in the CID, because there's a lot of these Rat 5, Rat 6 infantry units that if they combine, you're super hype, right? Like a 10-man unit combining kills 5 of these guys. That's not even a full unit, and these guys are 8 points. If they don't combine, they need 7s to hit. They hit 6 out of 10. Let's say. And once again, this is without force barrier.
So let's get it.
Let's add in that force barrier,
Yeah,
right?
because that's one of the tools that is specifically meant to work in Forges. The Artificer got Force Barrier to be model/unit, and then he's not an aura anymore. He casts it on them, and they can walk away. That is intentional with how the new Battle Mages operates. Those 7s
yes.
now become 9s, and if you're like, well, blast damage.
So no blast damage immediately
blast
when you add force barrier to that. And yes, I realize that this is a 5-point solo that is adding to the cost of these units, but it's not like you're taking 1 for every unit of mages you take, right? If you're taking 4 units of mages and 2 of these guys, you can split that point cost. Like if you want to say like this unit costs 13 points, it's not actually true. It costs 10.5 because you can split that guy between both units,
well,
right?
actually, in Forges, isn't he a 0-point
Well,
solo?
sure,
Because
but
it's going to be free.
But it's an opportunity cost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like I don't buy that argument either at all. That we have to pay for this guy. Like you have to pay for models, and they do things, and that's great. So could we put these guys back up to 10 points? Could we give them back force barrier? Sure, but then we have to change the Artificer, which I don't think we want to do, and I don't really think you guys want either, because I think people have been having great success with him in Legions. So we've talked a little bit about Force Bolt. Let's also talk about how Force Bolt interacts with set defense.
Sure.
So like if you do have things like Blighted Ogryn, probably a bad example because they get to mat like 13, so that's not great. But if you do have like medium-based infantry, Chosen for example.
Let's do Gators.
Gators, like any of these medium-based infantry, all of the Protectorate ones that just got changed in CID, like all these kind of lists, you can push those guys back so they can't walk and get to you. And then if they charge you, you're def 15.
Yeah, you know what I never want to
def
fight with my
15
Gators?
is amazing.
Yeah. I can get
Amazing.
nines to hit you with the Gators without any sort of buff, and I can do rerolls. Like, but you're also pushing me back constantly, and I threaten total 12. If I do the prayer to go extra 2 inches against living, man, as Gators, I do not want to fight these new battle mages. They actually sound relatively terrifying.
Yes.
And if you have Force Barrier on them, any of my tricks that do any sort of AoE splash damage, like bringing a spitter or whatever.
Well, I think the spirit corrodes though, right?
It does corrode, but
that's still 1/3 of them live on the corrosion, which is not really what you want a 14-point heavy to be doing. Like walking up, shooting 2 battle mages, and then one of them might live.
Yeah,
like,
that
seems horrible.
The worst.
I've also had a lot of arguments like they have a small footprint. Take 2 units. Like you're comparing them to Houseguard Halberdiers, which is a 12-man unit, which costs 18 points, I think, 19 points. Yeah. You get 2 units of these guys, which is also 12 of them for 16 points. Like all the stuff is fantastic. So I'm not necessarily buying a lot of these arguments that these battle mages are bad, especially when you start looking at them for like what they can do per point that they have. Because at 1.3 points per model, I know you told me not to say that because I say the word point twice. 1.3.
But yes, 1.3
points per model. If these guys were solos, they would be 3 points a guy.
They would not be 1 point.
Straight up. Yeah. And now I'm sure someone's going to come in here and be like, well, the Magister is one of these guys, and he does a lot of other stuff too. So he could be 4 points.
He has more stuff going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, all this said, and I know you got more to say.
Sure. Yes.
But I'll say, one thing I want to make sure is clear to everybody right now is we're kind of letting you know as part of this dev chat our feelings on battle mages, and there has been sort of like, here's what a lot of people are telling us, but we're not getting the data to back it up in the CID, and then here's what we feel and what we're seeing, and we're explaining these to kind of get it out to people what the strengths we see in battle mages, not to say we're right, you're wrong, they're not going to change in any significant way. And I want to make sure that's clear to a lot of people, because you can hear us talking, we're all very passionate, we love War Machine, right? It is literally our lives and our careers. So when we talk sometimes, it sounds like we're just like, trying to shove it down your throat. It's not the case. We just want to make sure that our point of view is clear, because what we're saying to you is far too much text to write in a CID forum post. And so when you test the battle mages, you see where we're coming from, and you can provide data that will sort of correlate with that.
Patrick Mueller in chat, I want to call this out right quick, says Artificer and Force Barrier battle mages can coexist. A lot of people already say so. The number of people that say something is largely irrelevant to me in CID. It is mostly the arguments that are made for why that can exist, and I have never seen a compelling argument as to why that should or could exist.
And the battle report proof of that. Because
correct.
What I was about to say is we've played a lot of Retribution games well before this started. We've tested the battle mages
for months
with these changes for a while. If you have not played a game with this and you're just giving us theory, that's not going to outweigh our playtest experience. It will never begin to outweigh our playtest experience.
Yeah, so if you're one of those guys that only hangs out in the theory and list building, that's great. I love to hear your opinion. I love to read your posts. But your feedback is going to be drowned out very, very quickly by battle report feedback or typeform feedback.
And also...
and the typeform feedback needs to be based on battle reports. So the people that go into the typeform and select, no, I did not play a battle report, I get to see that. I know that you have not played these things that you are commenting
visible
on.
to us.
And also, don't tell your opponent, I'm going to playtest battle mages, build an army that counters them. Because that's stress testing, that's not common testing. If you take this battle mage army against average armies that you might face in a tournament from a variety of factions, that's a more accurate test of what this change does than there's a way around it like the Blighted Organ thing you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there are things around all these things. This is a game of interactions.
And maybe you'll run up against
finding the right thing that gets
one army in a tournament that could counter that well. But you'll run up against a lot more that don't have a perfect answer for it. So don't tailor lists to prove points. Play games with things that you would normally play and see how it works out.
Grommelfist really puts it in, he's in Twitch chat right now. He says it sounds like they're saying do the theory then test. Sounds like the scientific model.
What we're saying.
So I am an
That's exactly what we're saying.
I'm a scientist. You're from my degree. You're a sicentist too, aren't you? What you get your degree in?
Me? I don't have a degree.
Oh.
And computer science does not make you a scientist. We've talked about this.
We're not going to talk about it Twitch chat, but you know we're right. As scientists, we like the scientific model. You should have said you're a
Mine was in
scientist anyway.
genetics, and I acknowledge Hungerford's degree.
Correct. I have a degree of science. It
That's
says I'm a
what
scientist.
I said. I
It
acknowledge
doesn't
it.
matter.
Air high five.
Yes, and Adrian R. Brown in chat, is the expectation to protect the Magister with Shield Guard, or is Force Barrier from the Artificer also included in that expectation? I don't think Force Barrier is necessarily required on the Magister because, as you mentioned, the Shield Guards from the Theme Force, I think,
You have a million of them.
are excellent ways to do that.
But the
And
Magister is
if-
also the same base size as the unit.
So they can block his
can
line of
screen
sight,
him
but you probably don't
line
want
of
to
sight-wise.
just like line up.
No, you don't want
style,
to clump
but-
them into a little wall, but no.
Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, if Discordia gets added, Discordia does add blast immunity. So you can hang out around your Discordia as well. So.
Is there anything else you want to add about the Battle Mage conversation?
I mean, I think 8 points is probably too low for these guys, even
I
as they currently
100% agree.
stand. So
I think 8 points is bonkers for what these guys do.
I agree. I agree. I also want
And
to
that's
talk
a
about
conversation we've had off and
yeah,
on.
yeah. I also want to talk about the Forges of War and the free point stuff. The Arcanist unit is something that I personally really liked being free in the Theme Force, and that is definitely a discussion that we are currently having internally at the moment as to whether or not the newly updated one that allows Shail units or Shail models to count towards free points will also let you take that unit or not.
Yeah.
Currently, I think we're leaning towards yes. I just had a little conversation with Jason yesterday about it, so I think that's where we're going with that. But that hasn't happened yet.
Well, before we close out here, so we talked about the week 2 changes, we talked about Discordia chat, and we talked about battle mages, our point of view.
Yes.
Interested in hearing more of your battle reports and showing us what you can and what you can't do with battle mages and what you think. But let's see if we have any questions from chat that we want to hit up real fast before we call it.
So I want to hit this one from Lord Randall right here. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's kind of a paragraph, but essentially the comment is the game is balanced around points, and you can always reach a point level where something will be good. And I believe that is 100% true.
Yes.
And you can have that argument through a lot of fallacies as well, like, well, if battle mages were 1 point per unit of 6, obviously they would be amazing. And when you say things in CID like, I will never take this unit, that's not true.
Yeah.
We can make it a low enough point value that you will take it.
There's one I really want to get
I
to.
don't want to do that because I think I would rather have interesting models rather than cheaper models.
Sure.
But
Tiberius in Twitch chat says, with the release of Mompoc, will there be any more CIDs after Circle? 100% yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mompoc will not be part of CID. CID will be War Machine and Horde
Correct.
specific.
Yeah.
So it will not impact that cycle. at all.
and Tiberius also asked it, if there are more, can you tell us? I said asked it. I like it. If there are more, can you tell us what they are? That they will be not in order. I would look towards the keynote at Lock and Load for a rough idea as to what the coming CIDs
That's
will
going to tell you
be.
what's going on. Because sometimes you promise things are coming and they change.
Yes.
It happens. And to explain a little deeper in the Monpoc CID thing, adding Monpoc to the schedule did space some War Machine things out a little bit. And that's what happened here with the Exemplar CID, the Tharn CID, and this Retribution CID in the middle. It doesn't turn off CID, it just rearranges the release schedule. And so there will be months where only Monpoc releases come out, or months where only Riot Quest releases come out. So that changes the War Machine release schedule in small ways so that we can space the CIDs out a little bit more. But that also means there might be CIDs that happen in a quicker order because there are a few months of War Machine releases that are tighter together.
So you want to do some more questions in Twitch chat?
Yeah, I want to hit this Mike Davies question right here.
Sure.
It just rolled off the top, but the gist of the question is, as more and more things come out, there are more and more things that are immune to pushes. And the two things that he listed were specifically Man of War, Man of War Shock Troopers, and battle engines. So there are definitely more battle engines coming. They just exist, right? Man of War came out a year and a half ago, so I'm not really sure we're going to count that as a new release. But I do get what you're saying. I don't think that is nearly as ubiquitous as you think, especially if you start looking at lists. And I'm not necessarily talking about pushing back an entire unit of Man of War here. I'm talking about putting a heavy into a unit of Man of War or something like that, and then pushing the other heavies away from that heavy to make it very difficult for them to get in on your heavy. So you don't necessarily have to push the Man of War, you can push the thing behind the Man of War. And I think if those Man of War decide to charge your battle mages, once again, happy party, right? Like, these Man of War are mat 7, you're def 15, they need 8s to hit. This is a 20-ish point unit of dudes that you then just kill for free.
Striker, this is when I need my soundboard, so I have something to play whenever we say happy party.
Yes. So yes, I agree with what you're saying. There are things that are immune to pushes and pulls. That's fine. A creative player can learn to work around those things and push and pull the other models to still manipulate the board to an extreme potential, especially with FAU battle mages. If you roll up with 24 of these guys, like you can pull a jack all the way across the board, the whole distance.
Well, we already said that they're probably not staying FAU.
Sure, but even at FA4,
That's one of the things we're on.
even at FA4 is almost certainly fine.
We got 2 rapid fire not related, then 1 related. A lot of chat that went by talking about they want something out of the Tharn CID. We're really focused on the Ret one. The Tharn one is coming. Trust me, you're going to be really excited. You know, there's a lot of good stuff. When you see the reworks of like all the Wolf Riders and the Wolf Rider Champion and how they're different from like Blood Trackers and how every Tharn unit now has a very distinct role.
I sat down with Jason on Friday and we took our little playtest sheets and we just cut them into little things and like made little charts and stuff. It was great. So we did a lot on Thursday, Friday, last week.
No, it was
last
right
week.
because him and I had the pre-meeting.
Yeah.
Then I came in for the back half.
And we
When you
did
do
a
things
lot.
like Blood Packer now living artillery, like having a defined role, it's really great. So we're not going to talk about specifics. It's coming. It's going to be awesome.
Yes.
Second question. Somebody was asking a question about onion rings. That one's gone. The third question was...
we can stay away from that one.
We can stay away from that one. People were talking about the Dester Thane and just asking how we feel about the Dester Thane. A lot of people are saying they're having trouble finding places for him in their lists. I mean, I'm super happy with the Dester Thane personally.
I think to me, it's do you want that unyielding or not, right? If you don't want the unyielding, you're probably not going to take a Dester Thane. If you want it, you can take him. Does that mean that he's living up to a 7-point price tag? Probably not. I'm sure that's a discussion that we can have.
Elias Smith.
Nope. You go.
A little fast, Elias Smith, just because this came up a lot. They were asking if the Lord of the Feast is getting Dark Shroud. God, no.
No.
What role do you? This is from Striker 911.
You need to stop answering circle questions.
I know. Well, that's all it was. What role do you see the Trident filling, or what weakness does it help bolster?
Why would you bolster weaknesses?
He's asking what holes does the Trident fill?
He's saying.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think it's a very mobile gun platform that gives a little bit of threat extension to Warjacks and stuff. I don't really see it as interacting directly with Dawn Guard. I see it as interacting with the auxiliary portions of the Dawn Guard. So I think it can bring some boostable guns, which I think is great, and I think it can help out with a lot of your battle group that's running behind and or around and or Jack Marshall Jacks in your Dawn Guard. Is kind of what I'm seeing.
And we also wanted to make something that was completely different from the existing battle engine. Like
correct. Yes, we want to make something very
mobile. The existing one's a
and
big
that kind of thing.
stationary cannon thing that does its thing, and this is a mobile tank that drives around, machine gunning people to death.
Yep. We did have one from Shroomify that it's long gone by now, but essentially was asking, do we feel like the average defense stat has increased as time has gone on to help combat the attack score bloat, which is a concept that a lot of our community has.
Like the prevalence of veteran leaders.
Yeah,
Correct,
They're
yes.
mainly talking about that.
There are a lot of veteran leaders going to the game right now, but a lot of them are very specific. This isn't normally like veteran leader protectorate or whatever, right? So a lot of these things are very specific veteran leaders, which apply to very specific things. So yes, that does exist. Am I particularly worried about it, or do I feel like we've changed the average defense stats? No, I don't. I'm not worried about it, and I don't think we've changed the stats particularly.
HK526 says, will Marshall Jacks count towards free points in Legions of Dawn?
No.
That is not something we're interested in doing.
Chad Hotard said earlier, Hungerford's not a scientist.
That's true.
It's not a question. It's just
Other people agreed with me. It was fine.
Yeah, and Siegfried pointed out, veteran leader is not permanent. You can definitely kill that guy
Yeah.
or gal that has
Yeah.
veteran leader, and then they don't get it anymore. So
Unless it's on the caster, in which case you win the game.
And
Well,
you can, use
you
your
can still
battle
kill them.
mages
Yeah,
to
you can still
shove
kill
that
them.
guy away.
If you kill
Yeah.
Carver, the veteran leader Pharaoh Warrior goes away, but you've also won the game, unless you're playing a 2-caster game.
Got 'em.
In which case, cheers.
Battle mages, shove, happy dance.
yeah.
Yes.
You always have to consider the positioning of things, the points cost of things, or the free notch that thing takes
Or
up.
Discordia. Mew, 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 mew.
Sure.
Happy dance.
Steelhead Hunter 81 asks, what about the Marshall bonus for Legions? If you want that benefit, you don't have points for wiggle room. Is there anything we can do about it? Yes.
Much like what we talked about at Lockaload in one of our hangouts, if you ask a question that it has an answer like that,
Yes. Yeah.
have you ever thought of something? Could you do something about something?
Yes.
The answer is always
We,
yes.
we have thought a lot about things.
We could.
And we could do
we
a lot
have
of
thought about
things.
things.
So when it comes down to the specifics for something like that, the real trick is to play some play some games with the unit you're curious about, and
Sure.
give specific feedback on what you feel it's lacking or has too much of.
So Dark Jester 95 asked something that we want to touch on one more time, is how have tested the +2 speed on the first turn in Legions of Dawn looking? That's one of the things we're very much paying attention to.
Correct.
I mentioned this about halfway through the stream. One of my concerns is that Legion being able to, on turn 1, run, be halfway across the board, and be able to effectively smother somebody out of a scenario game really on. So if you have a chance, please play those games during the CID and the battle reports, and let us know. If you play I'm interested to see what it does to Mirage and like Invasion and a few other ones. But yeah, just show us what you can do in the scenarios, and if your opponent has no reasonable answers. Anything else you want to hit?
Not really. People keep asking questions about other things.
Sounds like it's about lunchtime.
Jesse Carmack, should
And-
we expect Riot Quest to affect the CID cycle before December or after?
No, don't. So Monpok and Riot Quest will not affect the CID cycles whatsoever. CID is only for War Machine and Hordes. Monpok's not.
No, that
No, the question is,
release planning
Correct.
affects the CID schedule. That's
Yes.
what.
Yes.
It's not.
I thought they were asking
it's-
if they'll go in there.
honestly, I have no idea.
No.
I don't know when
That-
production starts on that kind of stuff or anything like
we
that. So.
build the production
That's
thing,
not our
just like
game.
I said, around releases, and releases for War Machine determine the CID cycle. So, yes and no and maybe and kind of.
Well, it's fluid. You can look at
And
the,
also-
you can look at the CID we're doing right now, right? The Retribution CID exists because we had a gap. So
Yeah.
will it affect the CID cycle? That's kind of what I'm getting at is I don't think so, because there might be a lull till the next big thing's coming out. But if there's a lull and we feel there's something we need to address, that doesn't mean every time
Yeah.
there's a lull we'll do one like this. We could, right? We could absolutely do
Sure.
Yeah.
Bog Trog Swamp Shambler CID or whatever the hell we wanted to do. It just depends on if it's right or not. I mean,
Yeah.
we would never do that. Those
That
things are
one's
amazing.
not right.
Riker's Iron says, any chance of a privateer shows off their CID process in a live stream format? Yes.
We
There is
have
a
talked
chance
about
of
that, of doing a game on one of these Wednesday streams instead of us sitting at this table talking.
I like talking.
And it's possible, but not before Gen Con.
You have that censorship button ready?
No.
We wouldn't have Schick in that game. It'd be the three of us. It'd be
I
like
repeat-
you two playing, me talking. Be careful.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. So everybody, as we get away, a couple things. First off, join us every week again. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/privateerpress. Tuesday for the weekly Rumble where we play games. Wednesday, you just watched it, developer chat. Thursday is Get Your Paint On with Dallas for hobby tips and tricks. Also, final reminder, today and until 5 p.m. Pacific tomorrow is your last chance to get the Gaston Crossbones mini crate model at mini-crate.com. And then the next model will be shown off soon, yes?
Very soon.
Very, very soon. So you'll get to see the next mini crate model. Is it the next mini crate model
dope.
is super
Jesus.
crazy dope. Now, Gaston's awesome. And I believe, Dallas, you said is painting him tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Dallas is painting a ghostly version of him.
But sign up, because you definitely want to get the Gaston, and you want to get next month's model. It's insane. So we will see you all tomorrow for Get Your Paint On at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll see you on the CID forums. Come play some games. Let us know what you think. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.
You have to pronounce it Gaston Crossbone.
Gaston.
I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
As the man from Louisiana.
As a Cajun, I find you...